Ahoy, everyone. Wyatt Claypool here, back again to talk about Canadian polls. This time, I wanted to cover national polling, which still has the Liberals and the Conservatives in a deadlock. I know the media has been trying to spin this narrative that Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are failing because look at this poll from Ecos that shows the Liberals somehow leading in Alberta. That's all nonsense. Conservatives were not really hurt that much by Chris D'Entremont crossing the floor, and the liberal media really tried to play up some drama to make it seem like Polyev was on the ropes and he's going to lose his January leadership review. Could he, in theory, lose? Sure, I just really don't see it happening. And now we have the liberals facing the exact same problems, if not worse, with Stephen Guilbeault resigning from cabinet, likely to resign from parliament entirely, followed probably closely behind by Nate Erskine Smith, Chrystia Freeland, Jonathan Wilkinson, and others. And I think that when you look at better pollsters, they tend to reflect the public mood has not shifted in the Liberals' favor because they haven't actually achieved the things that they set out to do during the last federal election. Again, we have no deal right now with the Americans. We have no trade deal. We keep signing random trade deals in Asia and Europe, which are just nonsensical pieces of paper that just say we should trade more and that's it. Or we have Carney announcing a bunch of major projects, which are projects that were already about to be done, or they're just just minor expansions to projects that already exist. He is trying to get points on the board before an election is called in 2026, and that looks pretty likely at this point. Actually, we'll get to in a little bit here that Elizabeth May actually has said that she regrets voting for the budget and that she will not repeat that mistake. And there's no one else to support it. The NDP just didn't vote for it because they're in a leadership race right now and they're broke. And the Conservatives obviously didn't want a Christmas election because who wants to be the guy who calls a Christmas election? Well, let's go to Abacus data here and let's look at the current top line numbers. We have the current vote share on the left here, and then we have what it was in the last on the last Abacus poll. Things have only shifted minorly a little bit in the favor of the Liberals. But again, remember the media has been giving Carney a good news cycle by attacking Poilievre, making it seem like Poilievre's leadership is at risk, and Carney is signing these frivolous deals like the memorandum of understanding with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, and also going around the world again and signing these trade deals in Asia, making it seem like he's getting stuff done, getting these major projects through. That will wear off. And considering that it's a pretty good week in relative terms for Mark Carney, and he's only at 41% right now, only leading the Conservatives by 1 point, is not great. But right now, we have the Liberals at 41%, Conservatives at 40, NDP at 8, Bloc at 7, Greens at 2, and People's Party at 1. And that means that the Bloc and the NDP, based on this poll, have the NDP has gained 2 and the Bloc has gained 1. Conservatives are only 1 point back from where they were at last election, and the Liberals are 2 points back from where they were at last election. I don't think Canadians are really in the mood to be dazzled simply by rhetoric at this point. A policy announcement is not going to swing the public behind Carney and the Liberals. I think people want big performance measures to actually be hit before they are going to be willing to change from their anti liberal voting position. And as you get an actual NDP leader installed, rather than just having interim leader Don Davies, you might have a lot of the more orange liberals who were previous NDP voters but threw the liberals a vote in this last election. They may start returning home over to the NDP. If the NDP goes from now 8% to even 12 or 13, the liberals are probably dead because the conservatives are probably not going to be giving back any of the votes they took from the NDP because they won the blue collar trades guys who were technically part of a union, but they've never been left wing people. They voted NDP because that's what the union bosses want. And as the NDP became the hyper progressive party, these guys are not interested in coming back in factories in Windsor. They're going to stay where they're at with Poilievre because they're comfortable with Poilievre. And the NDP is very unlikely to pick a leader that has any blue collar appeal. They're probably going to be doubling down on being the party of urban progressives, eco activists, and terror supporters. But I want to take you to another part of this poll that I thought was very interesting, and that was the issues. The issues are terrible right now for the liberals. Not like insurmountable, but They had a big advantage in the last election with the issues, and now that's pretty much gone. These are the top issues facing Canadians. And in this poll, people pick their top three issues. Now, when you pick top two, it tends to winnow it down to like the really big issues for people. I think three might be excessive, but these are still the results. With top three issues, rise of cost of living is 64%, the economy is at 40, healthcare 35, housing affordability and accessibility is at 34, Donald Trump and his administration is just at 32, and then immigration's at 26, crime and public safety 17. You could say like, well, I thought immigration should be higher, crime and safety should be higher. It's just when people are picking their top three issues, a lot of kitchen table ones end up occupying the top spots. I guarantee a lot of people pick both the rise of cost of living and the economy as their top issues. But the main thing you have to look at here is the Donald Trump and his administration option, only at 32%. Back in the summer, in June and July, that was at 44%, or at least 40. It's now only at 32%. During the election, it was at like 48 or 49%. And even when you actually turned it into just people picking their top two, because Abacus did one where they only had people select top two, Donald Trump was like 44%, 40% of people. That was basically their number one or number two issue. So there should be no shock why the Liberals did so well. There was a lot of single issue elbows up anti Donald Trump voters. With 32%, that's with three people picking three options. I guarantee if you picked only two, you'd maybe have 25% putting Donald Trump as one of their top two issues. Without an anti Donald Trump voting public, it's harder for Carney to kind of hold on because now he actually needs to perform. And if you look at these top issues, maybe you give an edge on healthcare to the Liberals. You can give an edge to them on Donald Trump, definitely, but that's, again, a falling issue. Rise of cost of living, economy, housing maybe is a little bit more of a 50-50 one. But immigration and crime, that's all easy conservative issues. We talked about that in another video. Crime and immigration end up being plus 20, plus 30 conservative issues. Even cost of living is like a plus 12 issue for the conservatives. That's big. That's like the biggest issue for people. Might not be their top one, but it's selected 64% of the time as one of somebody's top three issues. And Poilievre has the edge on that one. And you'll look at people saying, well, Wyatt, there are all these polls showing that Carney is the preferred prime minister by far. It really doesn't matter. Preferred prime minister is such a weak indicator of how people are going to vote because people will answer that poll in like different ways. A good polling question, everyone understands what it means and they will all answer it in the same frame of mind. They'll have different outcomes with what they say, but they'll be basically trying to go along with the same philosophy. Preferred prime minister, a lot of NDP and Bloc voters end up answering that question more as who realistically would you prefer as prime minister? They know that their leaders aren't going to become prime minister, so they say the Liberal. Or you'll have people basically answering that question, who's the ideal prime minister? If you could pick anyone and make them prime minister tomorrow, who do you pick? And so some NDP and Bloc will choose their own leader. That's why Maxime Bernier can always get 2%. People maybe would like to see him as prime minister, and 2% of the voters would say Bernier. And a little bit of it is when you're down to numbers that low. Sometimes it's just margin of error. People hit the wrong button, but regardless. And then you'll have other people answer the question like, well, who should be the prime minister right now? Well, I guess it's the guy with the most seats. So you'll even have conservatives saying, well, I think Carney should be prime minister right now because, the Liberals have 170 seats and we don't have 170 seats. And so that's why preferred prime minister is such a stupid thing to follow. The news outlets who hate Poilievre love to talk about preferred prime minister. Oh my goodness, Carney's at 52 and Poilievre's only at 28. Well, look at the top line numbers. Those same polls that do preferred prime minister, the top line numbers show that Poilievre and the conservatives are like 1 or 2 points away from the Liberals. The new Nanos poll has the conservatives crawling back up, and this is despite, again, the super bad news cycle for Poilievre, with Chris D'Entremont leaving and Matt Genero saying he's going to resign. Now Carney gets to handle the exact same news cycle with a bunch of Liberals resigning on him, and let's see how he holds up on it. The media was spinning the heck out of that thing, and we have Carney again announcing a bunch of fake projects, things that were already basically done, and a bunch of trade deals that aren't actually going to increase trade at all. He's on the upswing at the moment, but I don't think it's an upswing that's going to last. And when you're on an upswing and you're only leading the Conservatives by 1 point, not exactly great. I think the Conservatives are, in fact, going to be hitting a very good news cycle in January when Poilievre probably gets somewhere like 86% of the vote, 85, 82 on his leadership review. And he's going to have that momentum again because it's going to kill off all the questions on if he's going to be staying on as leader. I think you're going to have Carney having to answer questions about why his MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding with Premier Smith, isn't turning into anything real. You're going to have EB and a lot of the First Nations groups fighting with him. You're going to have the Green side of the Liberal Party mad at Carney for even suggesting a pipeline, even though it's not going to get done. I think that Carney is literally marching himself into a trap of his own making. But anyways, I just wanted this to be a quick video update on the polls. I will be back in the future. I had to re-record this thing multiple times. Every time I travel, because you're traveling with your very sensitive microphone rumbling around in the bag, it throws off all the levels and you have to like overcorrect and whatnot to make the whole thing work. And I had to re-record this thing, and I look like I'm disappearing into the curtains here because I'm not filming with nice natural light. But I still like this hotel because it has a nice white wall, so everything tends to look better. But never you mind that. Thank you all for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you all later.